I only buy the finest tea leaves. Zesta. See BOPF.
If BOPF is indicated on the pack.
Zesta, the art of tea.
On to our developing story tonight, which the News Plus international desk has been following. With international military intervention limited or otherwise in Syria hanging in the balance, President Bashar al-Assad has said that he would confront external aggression.
Syrian state TV quoted Assad as saying that American threats of launching an attack against Syria will not discourage Syria from its principles or its fight against terrorism.
Meanwhile, the latest update coming in on the Syrian front is that NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen has said that he has seen evidence convincing him that the Syrian authorities were behind a deadly chemical weapon attack, and said it would send a dangerous signal to dictators if the world does not respond firmly.
Syria generally refers to rebels fighting to topple Assad as terrorists. Assad's comments follow close on the heels of a statement from US Secretary of State John Kerry that the US has evidence that the chemical nerve agent sarin was used in an attack on a Damascus suburb seen as a rebel stronghold on the 21st of August, which the US claims killed over 1,400 people. Speaking on US television, Kerry encouraged his former colleagues in Congress not to turn their backs on the credibility of the US.
And I don't believe that my former colleagues in the United States Senate and the House will turn their backs on all of our interests, on the credibility of our country, on the norms with respect to the enforcement of the prohibition against the use of chemical weapons, which has been in place since 1925.
Meanwhile, the Arab League held a meeting of foreign ministers of its member states at its headquarters in Cairo, Egypt yesterday, calling on the United Nations to take decisive measures against the Syrian government for its alleged use of chemical weapons against civilians. In a press conference prior to the meeting, Saudi Foreign Minister Saud Al-Faisal said Saudi Arabia would back a US strike if the Syrian people did. Our stance is that we support the will of the Syrian people. They know their best interest and know what is needed with regards to their internal situations. So whatever they accept, we accept. And whatever they refuse, we refuse. Residents in the Syrian capital of Damascus gathered outside the US embassy last afternoon to voice their strong opposition against any possible US military action. Protesters waved pictures of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and chanted slogans such as "We oppose military intervention" and "We don't fear Obama." Meanwhile, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in Tehran during an interview yesterday that any foreign military intervention against Syrians would imperil the entire region's safety.
There is no military solution for this crisis. We have to find a political solution, and we hope that both the government and Congress in the US would consider the case very carefully, would consider the consequences of any military intervention in Syria.
Obama has now left the decision on whether to intervene in Syria in the hands of the US Congress, a deeply divided House. After members of Congress met with US President Barack Obama's national security team yesterday, many left with mixed feelings about possible intervention in the Syria crisis.
I'm still very skeptical about the president's proposal. It is not clear to me that we know what the results of this attack will be, meaning will it be effective? It's not clear to me what response might be undertaken by Iran, by the Syrians, against Israel, against us in the realm of terrorism.
Certainly the mood in the district that I represent is do not do this, and I honestly didn't hear anything that told me I ought to have a different position.
The full House is expected to take up the issue in the week of September 9th.